Oh, well, hello there. I didn't see you guys right there. How are you doing? How are you? Oh, wow. Seems like we got a whole audience with us here today. Oh, wow. Look at that. And you're cheering? Are you applauding me? You applauding me? Oh, oh, you guys didn't have to do that. Please, please. I'm not worth all the applause. Please give an applause for yourselves. Actually, applaud for yourselves for applauding me. Honestly, honestly, you guys deserve the applause. Come on, come on. I didn't even see you were right there. Let me get everything ready. We're getting everything ready for another stream. Hold up. I'm playing, by the way. I know you guys were here. I know you're here to tune into De La Spurs. Come on. De La Spurs Live, another edition. Monday night. Where else would you be on a Monday night? Am I right? Come on, man. We ain't wasting no more time, man. Go ahead and bring my face on the screen. Here we go. How we doing tonight, folks? Yes, sir. It is De La Spurs Live. Here for another edition of the show, the live stream, episode 52, Monday night, June 29th. Last couple of days of June before we head into July. Gonna be honest, coming in quite late for the live stream. I was watching the World Cup, that Germany Paraguay game. What a game that was. Going into the shootout. Sorry for the spoiler alerts, anybody who hasn't watched it yet, but Paraguay does take the victory 4-3 in the shootout over Germany. The four-time World Cup champions are eliminated from this World Cup. What a game it was. Tough defending. There was a goal, a Germany goal that was called out, an extra time ruled out due to a foul on the goalkeeper. But other than that, Paraguay defended brilliantly. Germany just didn't have the cutting edge that I think a lot of their fans and really everybody was expecting them to have, especially getting another opportunity back in the round of 32. They just could not make anything start to flow. Yeah, man, ultimately leads to their demise. They're no longer in the World Cup. Paraguay advances to the next round. I think they have to play whoever the winner is tomorrow against France and Sweden. So we'll see. We'll see. But yes, excellent game. I'm sure that there's plenty of you guys that are preparing to watch the next game, Morocco versus the Netherlands. That's going to be another good matchup here in the round of 32. So yeah, man. We're going to make this live quick. We're going to do a quick live stream, just providing some updates around Tottenham, what's been going on over the weekend, what's been happening now that there's another week in the books during the transfer window where nothing has happened here at Spurs. But hey, we're going to talk about it and go over a couple of quick points. Real quick, if you guys don't mind, go ahead and like this live stream for me. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at De La Spurs. Same on X. Follow me on X as well. You want to get in on this content. You want to be up to date on what's going on. Everything De La Spurs. Want to catch up on live streams. You can subscribe to the channel. Catch all my live streams there. Follow me on X if you want to kind of get where my mind is at. I'll be tweeting some stuff. I was tweeting a little bit today. Liking, retweeting stories, all that stuff. So if you want to get in on that and be abreast on everything De La Spurs Live, follow me on X. Subscribe to the YouTube. When you do, hit the notification bell so you can see when I post. I'll post when I'm going live and everything. So go ahead and do that for me. I appreciate it. Now listen. Quick updates for you guys. I'm not going to want to take a whole bunch of your time. There's some more World Cup action going on. So listen, we're going to quickly run through these stories. Just a couple of stories I saw. This may not be everything that's been clicking on the timeline, but just a couple of things that I saw. First off, we're going to start out here with the Bergval bid was rejected by Tottenham. We rejected the bid from Nottingham Forest around 50 million, which actually seems like a pretty decent number for the player. I really don't think Bergvall is worth around 50 million, but in this age of inflation, player inflation, especially around the Premier League, if you got any sort of Premier League experience, that adds instantly a 10, 15, even 20 million on to your asking price. So this bid was ultimately rejected. You can see here from DiMarzio via Daily Hotspur, they said that the 50 million pound bid was rejected, likely from an English club, Nottingham Forest. And they also say that the evaluation from Bergvall, or they won't go below that threshold of the 50 million. So it looks like Tottenham has identified a number for Bergvall. It's going to be at 50 million or higher. Again, I'm not necessarily sure this player is worth that much. Honestly, I would have taken this. To be quite honest, I think that's quite a bit of cash for the player. Maybe it's how the deal is structured. Maybe they're not paying a whole lot of money, or maybe the wages aren't quite where they need to be. Maybe Tottenham feels like we're not getting compensated enough for the player, even though it's going to be 50 million at the end of the day. So Tottenham has rejected this bid. It should be made note. I do want to make this a note as well, that Bergvall is still wanting to leave Tottenham as of now. He is a player that wants to leave, wants to get more playing time. Granted, will he get a lot of playing time in this Nottingham Forest team? I'm not sure. But when the team is coming offering 50 million for a player like Bergvall, I'm not sure, man. I think you got to be a little bit more cutthroat, a little bit more business savvy or open to business. I think 50 million is a good evaluation from the player, but hey, I've had to deal with 2 seasons in 17th place, watching this kid play and not really do much. So maybe I'm not the best one to negotiate on his behalf and what his price tag should be. But to be quite honest, if Tottenham was a little bit more cutthroat, and I really want them to be, I think they would have had a little bit more talks regarding this deal. But hey, I don't know the details. So like I said, maybe the wage structure wasn't right. Maybe the agent fees and what he was getting paid wasn't adding up. Maybe the money Tottenham was getting on the top half immediately wasn't enough to warrant the move. I don't know the details of it. So we'll have to see in the future. But this is an interesting one because Nottingham Forest, another Premier League team, a team we were just battling out in the relegation zone, has quite a bit of money from that Anderson sale that they're willing to spend. Are they willing to spend upwards to 60 million for this player? 65? I don't believe so. I also don't believe that there's a lot of other teams willing to spend that much on Bergvall either. So it's going to be interesting to see how we run this business. Is Tottenham going to run away all the potential suitors and then eventually have to stay and keep this player for another season? Is that sort of the plan all along for Tottenham? Are we kind of playing these teams, seeing what numbers we can get? And unless we get some crazy bid, some crazy offer, we're not going to entertain anything and hopefully try to keep the player on and convince him that, his place is here at Tottenham. Or will Tottenham be ruthless and when they get the right price tag, the right price for the player, a deal they feel comfortable with, will they go ahead and pull the trigger and allow this player to leave? We'll have to see in the future what happens. But the Bergvall bid has been rejected. It's going to be interesting to see if Nottingham Forest come in with another bid as well. What will happen in the future regarding this player? Moving on to the next story here. This one's a real quick one on Fernandez. Let me get this pulled up. Here we go. Spurs are still fighting for Fernandez. Get this story pulled up here. Via the Spurs Express, Tottenham are prepared to offer Mateus Fernandez a higher salary in Trump Man United's offer for the 80 million rated Portugal international. So it seems here, and this is from Samuel Luckhurst, not sure how much you view his reporting as definite or finite, but it looks like Tottenham are prepared to battle it out for Man United or with Man United for Mateus Fernandez. I think an interesting story in this is the position of where Man United is right now. They paying for another stadium. There's A lot of money that they've been spending over the past couple of transfer windows. Yes, it is Man United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. So they're always going to have some sort of revenue stream that just comes from merchandise sales, fans attending games, things of that nature. But when you're talking around throwing 80 million on a midfield player and paying him a good wage to compete with other teams that are in for the player, talking about dropping a lot of money on the front end to not only make the club happy, but make the player happy as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how Man United handle this. Now, Man United, I think, is in a better bartering position than Tottenham. You have a team that's about to go into the Champions League again, about to get a new stadium, more fans coming in, you have more room to write your chapter in Man United history. You also have a manager who's um, not necessarily looked at as like the permanent for the next 4 to 5 years. So are you coming in to say, let me go ahead and get my spot now? So when they find that new manager that they want to take seriously for the next 4 to 5 years, you will already be in that squad. You'll already have a place versus coming to Tottenham where we're not really sure what our plans are for next season. I think a lot of fans are hoping that we can try to get in Europe, but if you be quite honest with the history of Tottenham, the history of Tottenham, I'm not sure if Europeans going to be in our sights next season, even if we only have one game a week. I think that would be a little tough again, in my opinion. I think we're going to be trying to just shoot for getting in the top 10 again, establishing some sort of form of play with De Zerbi over the long term of a season, not just in 6 games, as well as try to revamp and regenerate the squad. So does Mateus Fernandez want to become a part of a project here at Tottenham, or does he want to become a part of a project at Manchester United? And if he does, will Man United be able to pay those wages that he wants, or will he have to take a pay cut? And will he be willing to take the pay cut? And is the project at Manchester United attractive enough to take a pay cut? Or is the money ultimately the name of the game, as it is for a lot of players? And will he want to come to Tottenham because we're willing to give him that money and he's willing to give us the time in transaction? So we'll have to see what will come of this. But this is now week 2 of our interest being in Mateus Fernandez, speaking with Mateus Fernandez, numbers and bids being thrown around, but nothing solid happening yet. Nothing concrete. No official bids have been sent to his door, to his front door. Just simply the ideas or the talk of how much money we're willing to spend versus other clubs. But I say this, folks, and you can let me know in the chat what you think Tottenham should do in this situation, especially with the Tonali bid or the Tonali stories also slowing up as well. Do you go all in for a midfielder like this? Do you say that you can still afford Mateus Fernandez or Tonali? Do you bump up the bid to make sure there's no room for Manchester United to negotiate? Tell me what you think should happen here on this story. But again, week 2 of nothing really happening yet on this. Very interesting. Remember our last live stream. Remember, who's exactly running the show here? As much as we see the different names and good names that we want to be a part of as far as in the transfer business, just remember who's in charge of orchestrating all of this. And we'll talk about that as well. I think that's another quick story that I had. But we're going to move on from there. Mateus Fernandez we're fighting it out with Manchester United. I think Manchester United still has some interest there, but we'll see. Next story here, we have Savinho. Another one. Cue the DJ Khaled, another one. According to Hotspur Lang by Jack Gon, Tottenham will need to meet Manchester City's valuation of Savinho, thought to be north of 60 million to sign the Brazilian. And even in this tweet, you see it proposes the question, should Tottenham pay that for Savinho? Now, I'm just going to go out and flatly say if we get Savinho, he will be the best attacker we have on the team. I think better than Kudus, better than Richarlison or Solanke, better than Tel Odegaard. He, hands down, will be the best attacker we have on the team. Also, as well, we can play him on his natural side, the left side, in which I think he saw the top form in um, Girona in La Liga. He was playing off the left. That's where he had that crazy season that even got Manchester City interested in buying him in the first place, right? We have that spot wide open for him. He would be our best attacking player, and you're talking about 60 million, which again, when you're talking about inflation of numbers, yes, he doesn't necessarily have the numbers from last season to warrant 60 million. That's just the inflation you face with him. As you can see in this picture, holding a trophy as a Premier League player, that is what's costing you. Ultimately, you may be around 30, 45 million if you want to say what's justified from what he's done in his career so far. But again, you're asking for, you're seeing another 15, potentially 20, 25 million being added on to his evaluation just because he's played at Manchester City. He has a Premier League experience. You also see here he has already has a trophy with the Premier League team, so it's going to cost a little bit more. Ultimately, to answer the question here, and to propose the answer the question proposed to all the viewers out there, yes, I think this would be a great signing for Tottenham. I do think that he's worth that, and Tottenham need to pay that. And maybe that he's not necessarily worth that to Manchester City. They could be trying to pull the wool over some of the team's eyes and selling it for this much. But if you ask me, is Savinho worth 60 million to Tottenham, especially with the attackers we have right now? I would say yes. Absolutely yes. And I would rip your arm and leg off to bring this player in as soon as possible. Um, Listen, we haven't had any connections with any attackers. We brought in 3 signings so far, all on the defense. I would love to bring in some attackers. And yes, again, he's not necessarily the goal scoring threat. He's had a good season of goal scoring and assisting. So I would hope that we could try to see that form in him again. But you're talking about a player who would be our best attacker in a team that we're trying to revamp. And if you say, if Savinho is as bad as he is, and you say Savinho is going to be the floor of what we bring into this attack, even better, right? That's even better. Like that's even better. I would if Savinho is like the ground level, and we're only going to get wingers and strikers who are better than Savinho, have better numbers in them, and have played better, then that's great. That's great. Just because we're paying 60 million for him doesn't mean he needs to be the marquee signing. He needs to be the headline signing. Just because he's from Manchester City, or that because we needed this player in this position since Son left, that doesn't mean that we have to stop with him. That doesn't mean he needs to be the best and everybody else that we buy has to be worse than him so he guarantees to start. That's nonsense to me, right? So ultimately, I say yes, bring him in for the 60 million. If you got to pay 65, even close to 70 million, I say he's worth that to Tottenham. He may not be worth that to a Chelsea. He may not be worth that to Manchester United. He may not be worth that to an Arsenal. Hell, he may not even be worth that to Manchester City. But he is worth that much to Tottenham in the situation that we're in. In a team that's finished in 17th place for the last 2 seasons, you're not necessarily in the best position to barter, however many 5s to 10s of millions you don't want to spend on this player. You're going to have to, maybe make some accommodations, maybe make some extra room in the checkbook to pay for some players. But ultimately, that's going to lead to actually rebuilding and trying to progress the squad. So do you pay a little bit more now so you don't have to do that work on the back end, right? I think this is something that Tottenham should be all over. Again, similar to the Tonali and Mateus Fernandez stories, this has gone pretty quiet, and we've been interested in this player before the end of last season. So it's interesting to me to see that this has gone silent. Savinho, he's not playing in the World Cup. He's not a part of the Brazilian team. I believe is he still injured? I can't remember if he made like some last game appearances for Manchester City. I think he's still injured. So you still are talking about an injured player that will take some recovery time too. And maybe that can factor into some of your thinking. When should we spend the 60 million on this player? We'll have to see. I'm not sure if he's still injured. I think he's good to go. But yes, ultimately, again, in my opinion, I think this is someone you sacrifice the overspending for. Fernandez, Tonali. These are the players that you sacrifice overspending for. Not Matisse Tell, not Richarlison, not Solanke, right? These are the players you overspend for. And yes, there is a risk to them, but I think the risk is far less than spending 60 million on Richarlison and hoping that he gets you 10, 15 goals a season. For me, this is much more worth the risk than any of the potential risks that we've been taking in the past. So ultimately, for me, I say that we need to go ahead and get this going, get this done. If that's not something that Tottenham is willing to do, then hey, it's gonna be a little bit rough seeing what sort of other transfers, what sort of plan B and C that we have for Savinho or for a left-sided attacker. Hold on. Where is I just had the story. I just had the story on Vuskovic and I just accidentally clicked out of it. Let me see if I can pull this back up again. Hold on, give me 1 second, folks. There we go. Moving on to this one now. Vuskovic. Brighton is still all in on the player. They are prepared to make another bid on him. This would be their third bid, I believe. I forgot what the bids have been prior to now, but we have another situation similar to Bergvall. This player wants to leave. They want stability. They want the playing time, and the player doesn't see his future here at Tottenham being very bright or for being very long. And again, Tottenham, this is a question of how ruthless you're going to be. You have a young talent, don't want to say exceptional, but a great young talent who's proved himself in the Bundesliga. Can he do that in the Premier League? We don't know. And ultimately, it's a question that he himself wants to answer by going to Brighton. So does Tottenham be ruthless? Similar to what we're doing for Bergvall, demand a high price for the player. So if that we do sell him and he does become the great player that everybody thinks he's going to become, know that you got a good price for him at that time. You sold him for a good amount of money, and that you can ultimately try to rebuild from there, find another talent, same age or around the same position, who's around the same as Vuskovic. But yeah, Brighton are still pushing for this. And, they're going to make another this would be their fourth bid, actually. So they're going to make a fourth bid on this player. Does Tottenham finally cave in? Does Brighton straighten up their deal, make it exactly what we want to the terms that we want? We don't know yet what's been going on in those discussions. I imagine that we're not necessarily so keen to sell this player. So unless the right money comes in, we're really not going to be in for him. And I think Brighton may be saying this is a teenage talent. He's still kind of raw as far as what he has in his skill set and what he has in his bag. So, I mean, are they going to be willing to spend $500 million on this player? More than likely not. And it will just depend on what Brighton see the price as, what we see the price as. And again, is Tottenham going to be ruthless and say, with us bringing in the Senessis, bringing in the Van Hecks, and all those sorts of players, will we shore up room? Will we try to be ruthless and provide another space for a defender to come in? And say if we do sell Vuskovic for around 30, 40, can we use that in our funds to buy another defender to come in Vuskevic's place? Or will we demand an even higher price? And those funds could be used to buying either another Vuskovic replacement, or going towards the midfield or the attack, or going towards the bids that we're promising to these other players in other positions, right? So very interested to see how Tottenham will operate in the next coming weeks around this player. Brighton seem like they're all in on this player. This seems like a Brighton signing. young talent, wants to have some stability, wants to get some playing time, wants an opportunity. Brighton, they're also in Europe as well, so they'll probably need as many players as they can get. And when you have that model of Brighton where you got a lot of young players, you want to be able to have a plethora of those players because injuries can come play a factor. A matter of how much these players have played in big games and handling situations will also become key. You have a player in Vuskovic who played in the Bundesliga, so also playing in the World Cup as well. So a little bit of mentality that he's been getting over the past couple of months and the past season, and he's been building that up. And again, I think this is a Brighton profile signing written all over it. That's why I don't think they're going to be going away anytime soon. So I think the ball's in Tottenham's court. Essentially, how much are you willing to put up to let this player go? And are you going to be ruthless enough to say, hey, even though you're young, even though we promised you the world when we brought you in, you want to take this opportunity. We want the money. Let's try to make something happen. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see in the future how this deal goes. If you ask me, I would love to try to keep Vuskovic on and bring him in as a sub, let him get some playing time, but it doesn't appear that is what De Zerbi wants as far as his plans. I think he's kind of not saying that he has PTSD or trauma or anything like that, but I think he'd rather take a chance on the experienced players that he relied on, similar to how he relied on the experienced players to keep us from being relegated. I think he wants some more experienced players, some older players. I think it's also a mentality thing, right? A lot of people have talked about how De Zerbi is this toxic manager, how things blow up with him towards the end of his tenure, and maybe with how he coaches and how hard he is on players. He doesn't want a lot of kids in that locker room. He doesn't want kids sniffling and getting all teary-eyed whenever he raises his voice. He probably wants grown men in there that he can yell at. They won't back down. They have that sort of mentality, mental strength of an adult, and sometimes you don't get that from kids. Sometimes kids break down. They can't handle that pressure from the manager, and then walking out on the field and feeling the pressure from the fans, right? So maybe De Zerbi's saying, I need some real men in this team. And Vuskovic, as good as you are, you're just not a man yet. You're just not up to what he wants. Not necessarily for what Tottenham need or if Tottenham wants, but what Roberto De Zerbi wants. So interesting to see how this will go. Interesting to see what the new fourth bid will be sent as and how that deal is broken down. And again, if Tottenham's going to be ruthless enough to take that deal. Real quick on this one, I just wanted to share this story. According to Team Talk, Lancashire is set to permanently join Roberto De Zerbi's first team. So we're seeing a youth academy product be brought into this team. Lancashire, who I think we've seen some summer cameos from him, right? Playing with the first team whenever we're doing the summer camp friendlies. But as far as playing any serious games for Tottenham, I don't think he has any time out there on the field, if not very little. So it'll be interesting to see how he does if this is true to what De Zerbi's plan is and ultimately wants to bring in the player to permanently join on the first team squad. And what will that look like? Especially if we don't get the signings in the striker positions that we're looking for. You're talking about a strike force of Richarlison, Solanke, and now a youth academy project, Lancashire. So you're talking about a strike force that's still at the bottoms, the dregs of the Premier League. And if you think, again, for all these Tottenham fans that say, oh, with one game a week going into next season, Europe is right there on the tip of our tongues. We can taste it. If you got a strike force that's pretty much at championship level, how much can you really expect from this team? Yes, the defense is going to look better. There's better players in it. If we can pull off these midfield signings, the midfield's going to be better. We're going to have better players in it. But if that attacking force is still the same, right, as much as you want to change the defense in the midfield around, Goals are goals, okay? You need attackers to score goals. We can't be relying on Paulinho and Romero and Van de Ven and set pieces to score like we were last year. I'd probably say the first half of our season, we were relying on set pieces and the bigger players and the elder players, midfield and defense to try to do something in those chaotic moments to score. Our attackers had no threat in a lot of these games. So if you want to add a youth academy product, yes, he can run around. Maybe he'll have some fearlessness, knowing that he's young. There's not a lot of consequences that comes with him because he is still growing and learning about the game. But if it's going to be a situation where Roberto De Zerbi has set a goal for the team, and in response to that, Johan Lange and Van I say, hey, Lancashire, Richarlison, and Solanke are your strike force going into next season, as well as Wilson Oderbear and Matisse Tell that can come off the bench and do whatever. It's going to be rough. It's going to be another rough season, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of performances, a lot of results that fans aren't going to be happy with. So we'll see. We'll see. Another interesting story I saw regarding a player being kept for the long term, that is Destiny Udogie. According to Fabrizio Romano, Roberto De Zerbi considers Destiny Udogie as a key player for Spurs' long-term project. No chance for a summer exit. I thought this was an interesting story because I really didn't think Destiny Udogie did a whole lot last season. Now, granted, he's been a player that has I don't want to say a long history of injuries with Tottenham, but he has had some pretty major injuries at Tottenham that has kept him away from the field for some time. So I think it's interesting that De Zerbi has come in and said that this is going to be the main guy, especially when we just bought Andy Robertson to come in. We still have Souza that can be on that left side as well. And then, of course, with us buying two more center backs, a lot of fans have been speculating, does Van de Ven take that left position, and we have Senesi and Van Heck playing at center back. Maybe we change up that center back pairing a little bit. So, again, I think it's very interesting that Destiny Udogie's looked at to be the key man. And with him being the key man, this means that he's going to have a starting position on the team, or is he going to be coming off the bench? Just exactly what is his role in this team when we've pretty much packed out that left side. We pretty much bought all the players that we could for that left side. So it'll be interesting to see what role Destiny Udogie has next season. And if he doesn't stand up in those shoes, he doesn't fill out those shoes the way he's supposed to. I mean, I know I said in the summer, if we had a good bid that come in for Destiny Udogie, I wouldn't necessarily be mad. I wouldn't turn my nose up at it. And that's part of, Tottenham being ruthless. But if it's something Roberto De Zerbi wants, then, we have to I say we should give him another chance, see how he works in this De Zerbi system. Ultimately, as much as he's supposed to be a wing back, I don't think Udogie has shown the best quality on the ball. Yes, he's shown that he's good in that sort of attacking third sense as far as maybe regaining possession back, helping keep control of the ball in those situations. But I don't see Udogie put in good crosses. I don't see Udogie put it in good passes on the ground into the box. I don't see Udogie necessarily being the guy to take a man on the wing, provide some space for himself, or ultimately get a goal in any situation. I don't think he's that good attacking-wise, but I think he's a player that you may want to keep on your team in case you do have a right back go down with an injury, and you can bring him on, and he'll be that solid don't want to say understudy, but that solid replacement, that sort of filler player, So I thought very interesting. Not going to get rid of Destiny Udogie, but let's see how he does next season. I don't think he necessarily captured a lot of people's attention. Granted, he had some injuries as well, but ultimately, I don't think he's a player that's necessarily shined here at Tottenham. So it'll be interesting to see just what the temperament and the sentiment is around that player as you go into these last or going to next season, I should say. Looking at the last story before we have this live stream brought to a close, and that is Mikey Moore. I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger so you can see what this is saying. Again, off a Hotspur lane. They're usually like the conglomerate sort of Twitter that I follow to kind of get these stories from all these different journalists. But according to this, Mikey Moore to West Ham on loan is being discussed as a potential part of the deal for the Mateus Fernandez uh, deal or transfer. A couple other names are also being discussed simultaneously. So, what I thought was interesting about this story is West Ham, the team, we were fighting it out in relegation. We are trying to buy one of their players in Matisse Fernandez. And if you're West Ham, you're not necessarily happy with Tottenham for taking in the 17th place, the last place to remain safe in the Premier League. But you're not looking to try to stay in the championship for long either. So do you go in for a player like Mikey Moore, in which you can get him for a switch for Fernandez, who ultimately Fernandez, I don't think wants to stay at West Ham. If you're West Ham, you know the player wants to go. So what kind of deal can you operate? Do you want just straight cash for the player? Do you want to bring a player in and maybe go for maybe half or if not a third of the deal or what you were asking for Mateus Fernandez if you can get an attacker? I think another interesting thing about this is also Jared Bowen, which I'm not a West Ham fan. I don't know what sort of transfer noise is going around Jared Bowen, but I imagine he's another player that can't be very happy with the camp and is not going to be happy to playing in the championship next season. So if Jared Bowen and Matisse Fernandez are looking to punch their ticket out of West Ham, then you're dealing with the team with Tottenham. Are you willing to take the chance on bringing in, say, a young Mikey Moore and selling Mateus Fernandez for, instead of the 80 million, you sell him for maybe 30 or 40 million, and you get Mikey Moore as well to bring into that squad? As well, with that, what sort of option are you looking to buy? Is this going to be a permanent option? Is this going to be a loan deal plus Mateus Fernandez and the money? Do you even trust Tottenham players right now? This is a team that you were just battling it out in 17th place, right? Are you really going to be trusting what their judgment is on the players that they have and how good they are? Are you really going to trust that judgment? Do you really trust Mikey Moore to be that good? He is an English product, so there is a little bit of that, right? Sure, him coming back home to England will feel a little bit better than playing in Scotland with Rangers and being, touted all over England and on these loan deals. So I think it's an interesting development if this is true. Will Mikey Moore be part of some sort of deal to broker Mateus Fernandez? In my opinion, if Tottenham were ruthless, Mikey Moore has been one of those players that's been on the fringe for a while, hasn't really gotten any opportunities with the first team, right? And with Roberto De Zerbi, what we're seeing in this trend is that these young players aren't necessarily his sort of cup of tea. As much as Tottenham, we wanted to try to bring in these young players, do this whole Project Youth with Archie Gray, Bergval, Tell, and Wilson Odebear. When it came down to it, and De Zerbi says, I need to put 11 players out there on the field that I trust, you saw that none of these kids were out there. So even if this wasn't something that West Ham necessarily wanted as Tottenham, you got to look, okay, well, if we are going to bring Mikey Moore back in, is this a player that De Zerbi wants to use? And if it's not a player De Zerbi wants to use, are you going to be ruthless enough to say there's money and opportunity for Tottenham to capitalize on this? Or do you bring this player in? Do you do another loan deal, have him out in these sort of fringe areas again for another season, and then try to reevaluate next summer? I, for one, am kind of tired of seeing our youth academy products do this. Now, yes, a lot of people want another they want another Harry Kane story. They want a Dele Alli story where you bring in these young players and you buy them. I don't think Dele Alli was homegrown, but you want another situation, where you bring in some homegrown talent in England, not necessarily academy product, but homegrown talent. Mikey Moore does come from the academy, so he's not necessarily, again, I don't think it's necessarily the same as Dele Alli. But yeah, you have an academy product who's here. He's homegrown in England, right? So you know that you can make a decent amount of money on the player. Are you going to be ruthless and say, let's cash in on this now? Do you provide him with another loan to maybe try to bump up his value a little bit more, especially if he has a standout season next season? And do you risk potentially selling him to West Ham, who, if they have a good season next season, will be right back in the Premier League? And I'm sure at that point, depending on how the deal is, Mikey Moore will be a part of that attacking front for them coming back into the Premier League. So do you want to take that chance? You want to take that risk? Do you want to be ruthless? Or do you want to keep this player? Say that you're going to get some more opportunities next season. We have to see what happens. And again, send him out on loan somewhere. Hopefully he has a standout season to bump up his value and maybe show that he's ready for the first team. I'm not sure. I would say, to be quite honest, I haven't seen a lot of Mikey Moore, so I'm not necessarily too hot on the player. As far as other Tottenham fans, I think it was him, Lancashire, and I think there was another player from the academy who they thought were the holy grail. Those are the three that were going to become something, and it really hasn't come out to anything yet. So to me, I'm not so hot on the player. Again, if you want to be ruthless and you say, hey, there's a deal in for him, West Ham are willing to spend however much on him, or West Ham is willing to part with Mateus Fernandez so long as they get about half of what he costs in Mikey Moore, I'd be willing to hear that deal. I'd be a lot more open to that deal, and I would tell Mikey Moore to prepare to pack your bags. Listen, it's also in London too, so I think for Mikey Moore, he's saying I'm not that far away from my home. Family's going to be close. They can attend games. I don't got to go all the way to Scotland, drive all the way to wherever in England he's been doing his loans at. So, is this something that, again, Tottenham, you're ruthless. You see that there's an opportunity for both the club and the player. Do you take that opportunity, or do you not sit on your hands again and say, well, let's see what we can do next season. Let's reevaluate next season. We'll have to see. But just some interesting stories that I saw going around on Twitter, social media over the weekend and for this week. We'll have to see what else happens in these transfer sagas, what's going on with Mateus Fernandez, Tonali. What are we going to do with those? The Savinho deal, is that frozen over? And then as well, just other signings and other positions that we need. I would say we need another. If we get, I see we got Dubravka, but I would say for a goalkeeper, we could have gone for a number one. I would have gone for a number one. In the midfield, yes, we're getting Mateus Fernandez and Tonali. Blah. But is there another attacking midfielder that we want to bring in? We just saw that Xavi Simons is dealing with the bad injury. James Maddison is just coming back from dealing with the bad injury. To take the pressure off of those players that have to come in and immediately be at 100%, do you bring in another attacking midfielder to take that load off? And if you do, who is that attacking midfielder? Of course, in the attack itself, we need way more than what we have now. So it'll be interesting to see what stories come out until then and what Tottenham will do. But hey, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this live stream, being a part of it. Again, I do apologize about being this late. I was watching the World Cup game, about to watch another one. I suggest all you guys get on that as well. But before you leave this live stream, go ahead, put a like, thumbs it up. Really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm and everything. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow me on X. Everything in the description down below of where to follow me and how. If you do, go ahead and hit the notification bell so you know when I'm post. Get notified of when I'm going live so that way you're not searching desperately for De La Spurs. I know your search history is probably crazy. It's got 4 different versions of De La Spurs in there. You've probably been clicking on video after video after video looking for this live stream. So go ahead, subscribe to the YouTube, follow me on X, so that way you got a direct stream, direct line to De La Spurs live every Monday and Friday. Listen, I appreciate your time, folks. Hopefully, you have a good rest of your week. We'll be back on Friday with another edition of De La Spurs Live. Until then, have a good night.